tutorial time once again. Hello and welcome back. I am Prakriti, a full-time art educator running online painting classes. Today we will paint a beautiful scene in vintage color palette. I hope you will join me and create your own masterpiece. To start, we'll be using these supplies. You will need any paper 200 GSM and above, a round brush size 6 and a flat brush size 6 and some acrylic paints. I will be using this Himi acrylic set I got from Thoovi Arts. Let's begin. I have the sketch ready here. It's a very simple sketch. To start, I'll be using a diluted black paint to mark all the sketches so that when I paint over this, I don't lose the sketching. We don't need to use a very thick paint, just a diluted paint will do. I'm only marking all the lines that are drawn with the pencil. Keep the lines as thin as possible, especially for the spokes and the basket. We will start by taking some lemon yellow, burnt sienna and mix it. If you have a yellow ochre paint ready, you can use that directly. I'll be mixing some white into this shade. I think I need more yellow and I've added more. Taken a mixture. I'm taking tiny amount of black as well and mixing it into this mixture to tone down the color. I don't want a very bright wall, hence I've added a small amount of black. Now take a big brush according to your paper, the size of your paper, and paint all over. You don't need to add a very thick paint, you can use a diluted version. Now for the ground, I have added a little more black to keep the difference between the wall and the floor. Now I am taking the darker mixture we created and adding it to the basket. I am adding a bit of white to lighten the shade and mixing it well. I will add this color to add it as highlight on the basket to some parts that are lighter in shade as compared to the whole of the basket. This is a very simple painting. It's important that you enjoy painting this. Don't worry about all the shades, tones and the colors. Just go with the nearest color and paints you have. I'm adding a small bit of lemon yellow to this mixture to change the tone, and I'm once again going over this part. Now make sure your black lines that you had added initially are not shown when you have finished painting. And also remember, always paint in thick layers for the main objects. I always feel that painting an object with a single color will not make it look more realistic. Hence, I usually add different tonal values. I am doing the same thing here. I am adding a bit of darker shade to the top part and blending it with all the colors that is there in the base. Now I am taking some black shade and applying it to all the parts of the cycle that is holding the basket. Now I am adding some lines with a darker brown over the basket. I am adding more darker lines in between the planks that is formed for the basket. So that it looks like shadows in between them, creating some more texture over the basket. Next, let's create a grey shade using black and white. This will be the mortar between all the tiles or stoneware that is there on the wall. So add this roughly. We shouldn't add a very fine line. Make sure they are slightly wobbly and they are slightly in different thickness. You need not add it in very thin and straight lines. So keep adding them alternatively as shown. Since we added all the fine lines using black shade initially, it is easier to paint all the bigger details right over it. If you are not comfortable using black, you can also use burnt umber to create all the details initially. Now I am dragging my brush the whole of the bristle part to make it look like patches. Similarly, we'll apply the grey shade to the floor as well. Add some more black to the brown mixture we created and add some dots using the flat brush itself. Don't go for a smaller brush. I want to have some pock marks on the wall, that is the different marks that are there on the wall. It's a very old wall, so I'm trying to create these marks and I'm smudging it with my fingers. Let them be random. Make sure you're not adding them in a very disciplined manner with one dots beside one another. Next, let's create some grey. I'm taking some black and white and I'm adding the dark grey mixture to the tire of this cycle. Paint the tire with this dark grey mixture all around evenly. Make sure you are adding at least 2 coats so that the paper is not visible through the paints. Use plain black to create a shadow between the guard and the tire of the cycle.
Use black on the left half of the circle and blend at the sides. I am adding a thinner line on the right side to show the gap between the rim of the cycle and the rubber tire. Next, I'll mix a lighter grey and add it in between the black mark that I added just now and the tire that we painted earlier to show the difference. Blend all the extra colors. Make sure they don't stand out. Next, take plain black and a brush that has a good tip and start adding all spokes. Now this is the place where the guard is holding the center part of the tire, so I'm painting this one spoke and this on the other side in a thick manner. The trick is to not paint all the spokes and to not paint them totally, like start from where the spoke starts near the tire and just make a thin line as you come near the center part, and this gives a more realistic feel. Color the rest of the part of the bicycles using grey and black mixture. Add more black wherever there will be shadow, like for example there will be shadow near the basket that is there, and as you come away from it, it will be slightly lighter. So use a darker grey mixture near the basket, and as you come away use a lighter grey mixture. Make sure to blend all these shades. Now we come to the best part of the painting. Let's start adding the flowers in the basket. For starters, I'm going to paint some white rose shape here. Wherever I need to add roses, I'm just painting the outer shape of the rose in white. The reason for this is I want this to look bright when I'm done, and since the wall is slightly toned, it won't look as good. Hence, I'm adding white initially. Next, let's take a dark green and some black and make a more darker shade and add leaves around the roses. This will make sure the rose stands out. I've also mixed the brown mixture that I had on the palette into this dark green to make it look more realistic. You don't really need to paint everything as leaves. You can just put marks that look like leaves, just create dots and dashes that give you a look of foliage around these flowers. I'll be adding more vines and some stems as well. A good tip to paint realistic looking vines or branches or anything in nature is to hold your brush loosely. It's best if you hold it at the center part or at the extreme end instead of holding it near the ferrule like a pencil. Hold it loosely and just start adding marks. See, this is the best way to create some vines or realistic looking branches if you have to paint a tree. Now next move on to adding some more colors. I have taken acid blue, or you can take a cerulean blue, and I'm adding these around a white color patch that I have created. So you'll need 2 colors for this one. First add some dots, a cluster of dots using white. Then with the same brush, without washing, take the lighter blue, that is the cerulean blue or acid blue, and paint around this white cluster.
You will get abstract looking hydrangea flowers.
In this painting, we are not looking to create very realistic effects. We are only trying to go in the abstract style. So it's very easy to do all of this. I hope you'll give this a try. And if you have any questions, you can definitely let me know in the comment section below. I'll answer them all. To balance the shades of the flowers that are there in the basket, I'm taking some lemon yellow and mixing it with some white. I'll be adding another cluster of these yellow flowers here and there in the basket. Now this will bring out a vintage looking scene here. The bicycle will look very pretty with the basket of flowers. The shades, tones and contrasts are always very important when creating a painting. Make sure the colors balance out each other. Now to add some lighter tones, I'm taking a lighter green. I'm mixing small amount of dark green because I don't want it to look very bright, and I'm adding more leaves to the vines that I painted earlier. If you see, I'm not painting exactly leaves, I'm just making marks that look like leaves. This will create an abstract feel to the painting. Fill the basket with dark and light colored leaves as you see fit, or until you feel that this basket looks pretty enough on the bicycle. Finally, let's add some details to the rose. For this, I'm taking white and some violet shade. You can take any magenta violet shade. I'm also adding little bit of burnt sienna. Now mix these colors to create, now you can mix little bit of burnt sienna with white to create a base for the rose. And then I'm going to add little bit of magenta or violet into this color and adding the center part of the rose. Now if you want to have just white rose, you can use grey, white and yellow, lemon yellow combination. You can paint any color rose you like, but since I'm going for a vintage palette here, this is the color I'm looking for. Paint some alternating C shapes in the center, and then I'm once again adding some white around to just clean the shape of the rose. I'm adding some more darker lines on the basket to redefine its shape. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Let's peel the tape and see how our painting looks. Isn't it so pretty? I hope you like it too. Do give it a try and tag me when you share on social media. I would love to see what you create and give you a shout out. All the best. See you in the next video. Bye.